coaching corner, we've had some big coaching movers and shakers. Naomi Osaka has
Mm.
arrived in Beijing with her new coach in tow, and that being Patrik Mouratoglou. So that's quite exciting news. Yeah, she's split from Wim Fissette now with Team Mouratoglou. Chris, any thoughts on that partnership? Is that going to breed success?
I mean, it's a big change. I think she did need to make a change. The other news that we will be talking about is the Coco Gauff. I think when you aren't getting the results, and I think that Osaka's been so close, and I think when Fissette said that they were so close to having that breakthrough this year, and I think that's very fair. They were 1 point away at the French Open of
Yeah.
the biggest win of anyone this year. I mean, it would be
That would have been
huge.
the biggest shock, I think, maybe of the season against
It would have
Swiatek.
been, and I was there, and the level was there, and the team looked like they were really, doing well together. It's just been so hard to build, and I think that is because of the mental side of the game. Is so tough to get over that line, especially when you want it so bad that you haven't had the form. You're coming back. It used to come so easily. So I do think that that is going to be the challenge, and the challenge where Naomi said doesn't feel necessarily like she's in her body at times. And I'm not sure necessarily if the change is the thing that will make for a positive refresh here. I'm not sure that Patrik Mouratoglou is famous for the emotional support side of things, or necessarily from. He's much more of a almost like a champion maker. That's how he sees himself, I think, and what he's able to do. So I think that's probably why she wants to be back with someone who had success, especially post the ultimate success they had an earlier, and even built on that more. Serena's story was like that. Serena won some slams. She was away from tennis, very different reasons. Serena had some time out. Naomi had a baby, and then she won the majority of her slams. So I think that that's an arc that Naomi really wants. This is a surprise. I think that maybe this tells me that Mouratoglou did actually maybe bin off Holger Rune. And from that chat that you had with him at Wimbledon, he was very carefully wording things, Joel. Did you get any sense that maybe it was coming from Patrik, that split, as opposed to from Holger?
I mean, no. I think this still caught me off guard, and I spoke to Mouratoglou around Ultimate Tennis Showdown earlier in the year, and again, I didn't get this sense, but it does. At the same time, though, when I read those two together, it feels like it does make sense. As you say, he is a champion maker. That's why he gets involved. I think he breeds Grand Slam champions. You just look at his resume for success, and maybe I think that's what has motivated Osaka, for them to join forces. So yeah, it'd be an interesting partnership, but I also think with Osaka, she needs to. There's still plenty of work to be done there, because I feel like she's just getting frustrated with herself a little bit too much, and it's, as I say, impacting on her game. And I can understand why those frustrations are there, but she needs to get down to the tennis and get back
Yeah.
to where she was.
Yeah, and Kim, I'd ask the question, do you think it's more for Naomi off the court work that needs to be done as opposed to on the court? Do you think that the coach will make a huge difference to her, or do you think it's how she's feeling in herself that makes the biggest difference to her results?
Well, I think now she's, a mother, she has like a much better perspective on everything. So I feel that I think it's probably just, yeah, I don't think it's anything like necessarily with her. I think it's just waiting for it to finally click into place. Because I think
Yeah.
what we've seen we've seen some real flashes of brilliance, especially like you alluded to, that match that could have been so different earlier in the year. So I actually think this partnership could be a real winning combination, and I think
Mm.
we might see it all gelling come the Australian Open. I wouldn't be surprised. And
It still
she
feels
only
like.
came back.
Sorry.
I was gonna say she only came back at the start of the year. Sometimes these things take time,
Mm.
and I don't know. I think this is a good move on her part. I do.
It still feels like that Osaka Swiatek match, French Open's a what if moment, and
Mm.
we sort of, I just maybe naively assumed, oh, she's back. She didn't get the job done, but she's back. And
I did. I tweeted exactly that.
Yeah.
Naomi Osaka is back.
That's what
I think
happened.
I actually
Yeah.
did.
I mean, I'm gutted she didn't win the Olympics like I said she would.
She got so close to
So
taking a
gutted.
set of Angie Kerber in round one.
That was, basically a gold medal.
Yeah.
But we do have to cover the other coaching news, of course. Coco Gauff has split up with coach Brad Gilbert. So they began working together about a year ago, obviously before she won her US Open title. But yeah, very recently they have parted ways which we perhaps were expecting
Mhm.
because of Coco Gauff's recent form. They kind of had some nice messages that, wishing each other well, etc. But what do you think's next for her? Like, do you think she could be targeting anyone in particular? Like, what do you think she should do? Chris?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think Coco, if she really is going to keep pushing forward, I think she needs a coach that doesn't shy away from the issues in her game. I think what Brad did was so much of the mental side of things, in terms of not saying change things, shift things. It was a lot more about, he's famous for winning ugly, and she's done that so many times. She's found ways to win when she's had bad days, and previously she wasn't doing that. And then she has a great day, when she can play, top two tennis at the moment, and then it does sort of yo-yo between the two, and they've really clicked at that point in time. And some coaching relationships do click for a tournament, like Emma Raducanu and her coach at the US Open, and some click for years and years and years. So I think it did run its course, but I think she needs a coach that won't shy away from the forehand, and from the serve, because I think he's always been very defensive of the forehand, saying it wasn't a technical problem. There was no problem. There is a problem. I think you don't have to be an expert at tennis to know that the forehand is not one of the best shots in the top 10 by any stretch of the imagination. It's actually a shot that if you hit it hard enough at it, it will break down. So she needs a coach who's going to tell her the truth. We all saw it coming. And I would like to see some big changes. We've talked about Australia in the off season. I think that's when she's going to have to start shifting the forehand technique, or start making some small changes, because she's got the game. It's just tweaks that she needs to make to that forehand to make it technically sound.
I think, and the serve as well. A lot of double faults.
Yes,
was also an issue. But I agree. I think she needs to get a coach who's going to help with her her technical
one
shots.
step back, two steps forward.
Yeah, it didn't feel like Brad Gilbert maybe gave that as much attention as he should have. And I think just also, like, looking at it on TV, it felt like they just were fed up with each other. Like,
they've nothing in common
between
I don't think.
the player box and the on-court player. It didn't feel like there was any harmony there, towards the end of that relationship. So, it'll be interesting to see. I was just going to say, it's quite interesting now because Gauff and Rybakina are both coachless. So we have two top 5 players without a coach, which feels, quite a interesting, strange perspective. Well, I've just assumed we just think that, like, the players highest up in the rankings have these amazing teams,
super coaches,
and actually we've got 2 at the moment. Who
Fissette will be thinking about it, won't he? Obviously he was coaching Qinwen Zheng, and then he ditched her when Osaka was coming back after maternity leave. But you have to think that someone,
and Rybakina,
I think that could be a good match, because she obviously, and we won't talk about this in any detail today, but there were issues with her previous coach and the ways in which potentially that relationship did go down. There's rumors about WTA bans. All of these are alleged at the moment. So someone like Fissette, who's well known to be a very nice guy and worked with someone like Naomi Osaka, who is also famous for being very lovely, I think that could be a much needed change for her. So I wouldn't be surprised if you saw some of the coaches who have been, switching about, that they do look for that top 5 position, because imagine coaching Gauff and Rybakina. That's one of the best tickets you can have, really, as a steed who could be competing on the tour with you.
If I'm coaching Rybakina, I get to watch, I can have my feet up for a lot of the time, I think.
Yeah, just work on the serve and then stop.